Be honest with yourself for a moment. Have you ever stared at the fridge at 7 in the evening, feeling so drained that even boiling water sounds like a monumental task? The good news is that nourishing your body does not require flames, pans, or a single drop of boiling liquid. You can hit your fiber targets with nothing more than a mixing bowl and 5 quiet minutes. Today, I am walking you through simple, assembly-only, high-fiber meals designed specifically for those evenings when your energy tank is on empty. These are genuine, functional plates that keep your digestion humming and your appetite satisfied. If you appreciate straightforward ideas that remove the friction from aging well, be sure to hit that subscribe button here on my channel. I drop practical wisdom every week that helps you eat smart, recover your vitality, and keep your daily routine beautifully uncomplicated. Let's jump straight into the first idea, the digestive powerhouse yogurt bowl. We are kicking off with arguably the most reliable weapon in the no-cook arsenal. This combination is something I return to constantly because it is gentle on the stomach, takes seconds to build, and keeps you feeling steady for hours. On those nights where cooking feels like a heavyweight championship fight, this bowl silently rescues your nutrition goals. Take a medium-sized bowl and spoon in roughly 3/4 of a cup of plain Greek yogurt. The dense, velvety nature of Greek yogurt creates the perfect foundation, anchoring everything that lands on top of it. Now, we introduce the fiber accelerators. Tip in 1 tablespoon of chia seeds and 1 tablespoon of milled flaxseed directly into the creamy base. Mix everything together with a deliberate stir. These 2 ingredients punch far above their weight class. Chia seeds alone deliver close to 5 grams of fiber in a single tablespoon, while the flax pushes the count up by another couple of grams. Before any fruit enters the scene, you are already building a serious nutritional profile. Next, dice roughly half a medium apple into tiny, bite-sized cubes. You are aiming for about half a cup of fresh pieces. Scatter them right over the yogurt surface. Keeping the peel intact is critical here because that is precisely where much of the fiber hides. The apple contributes an additional 2 to 3 grams to the tally. If your taste buds crave a hint of sweetness, a light thread of honey drizzled across the top transforms the bowl into a creamy indulgence, though this step is completely elective. When you tally up the numbers here, the bowl clocks in somewhere between 9 and 11 grams of fiber, varying slightly with the size of the apple. That represents a large chunk of the daily intake recommended for older adults. You are left with a smooth, mildly sweet dish that feels airy, yet somehow keeps hunger locked away for a surprisingly long time. I have a small piece of wisdom earned through impatience. After folding the seeds into the yogurt, pause for about 5 minutes before taking the first bite. The chia pearls absorb surrounding moisture and bloom into a softer consistency, turning the bowl into something that feels like a rich pudding. Eating it instantly leaves a gritty crunch, which is not unpleasant, but waiting elevates the texture entirely. One final note on strategy. Keep a tall glass of water nearby. Fiber acts like a sponge, and it needs ample fluid to move things along smoothly inside your digestive tract. Think of water as the lubrication that lets the fiber engine run cleanly. 2. Banana peanut butter soak bowl. This option is perfect when you want something that hugs you from the inside, but you absolutely refuse to hover over a stove stirring oats. This is where the magic of passive soaking comes into play. Oats transform into silky softness without ever touching direct heat. Grab a wide bowl and pour in a half cup of rolled oats. The traditional kind works best because they maintain a bit of chew compared to the powdery instant versions. Follow that with 3/4 of a cup of your preferred milk, whether that is classic dairy, almond, or oat milk. Swirl the oats and liquid together. Add a generous tablespoon of nut butter, peanut, or almond, right on top. Do not stress about blending it in perfectly just yet. It will mellow and melt into the mixture naturally as it rests. Here comes the familiar fiber champion. Measure out a tablespoon of chia seeds and whisk them thoroughly into the mixture so they do not clump in one spot. Now, step away for 10 to 15 minutes. During this brief window, The oats and seeds absorb the surrounding liquid, expanding and thickening into a cool, porridge-like consistency. It works on the same chemistry as overnight oats, but without the waiting until dawn. While the magic happens, slice half a banana into neat coins and set them aside to crown the dish once the base has softened. Let us look at the nutritional ledger. The oats contribute 4 grams of fiber, the chia seeds boost it by 5, and the banana adds another gram or 2. You are floating right around 10 grams in a single sitting. The mouthfeel is shockingly rich, because the nut butter melts into the pockets of the soaked oats, making the whole thing taste almost like a peanut butter banana pastry. One trick that regulars pick up after making this once or twice involves adjusting the thickness. If the mixture tightens up too much upon standing, simply splash in a tablespoon or 2 of cold milk and stir gently to loosen it. Oats never stop drinking liquid, and if you want to elevate the sensory experience, dust a whisper of cinnamon across the peak. Suddenly, it tastes like something scraped from a warm baker's tray. 3. Avocado chickpea smash. Let us pivot hard into savory territory. If you are feeling fatigued by sugar-laden energy bowls, this crunchy, rustic spread is the reset you need. It lands heavy on the palate, but takes virtually no time to assemble. Begin with a sturdy slice of whole grain bread. One slice typically packs 3 to 4 grams of fiber, which makes it a superior structural base compared to its white flour relatives. You can eat it soft or toast it until it cracks if you prefer that audible crunch. Inside a separate small mixing bowl, combine a 1/4 cup of canned chickpeas, thoroughly drained and rinsed, with roughly 1/4 of a ripe avocado. Grab a standard dinner fork and crush them together into a chunky paste. Do not overwork it into complete mush. Keeping some uneven texture makes the eating experience much more interesting. As you mash, add a small squeeze of fresh lemon juice and a pinch of sea salt. The acid brightens the entire profile and prevents the avocado from shifting into an unappetizing brown shade too quickly. Transfer this mixture onto your waiting bread and spread it thick. Now the fiber math becomes clear. Chickpeas bring about 3 to 4 grams. The creamy avocado adds another 2 or 3, and the bread struts in with 3. This humble open-faced sandwich pushes out roughly 8 to 10 grams of fiber, a surprisingly dense result for something that looks so simple. The first time I put this together, I was stunned by how velvety the chickpeas became when bound with the ripe fruit. It mimics a rustic, unprocessed hummus without a food processor in sight. One tiny refinement that changes everything. After spreading, scatter a tiny pop of crushed chili flakes or cracked black pepper over the very top. Not a scorching burn, just a subtle buzz that makes the flavors pop. Instantly, the toast feels less like a survival meal and more like a deliberate cafe brunch. The cleanup required is a single fork, a bowl, and a plate. 4. The effortless bean salad. This is the dish I direct people toward when they claim they cannot muster the strength to even peel a vegetable. Calling this cooking would be a stretch. It is more like intelligent mixing. Open a can of black beans and measure out half a cup. Tumble them into a mesh strainer and pass them under cold running water for about 10 seconds. This rapid wash strips away the thick, slightly metallic canning liquid and drastically improves the taste. Nestle the clean beans in a bowl and you have already secured roughly 7 to 8 grams of fiber. Beans remain one of nature's most generous fiber reserves, condensed into tiny, protein-packed packages. Next, have a handful of cherry tomatoes until you reach a half-cup measure. They inject a burst of acidic juice that cuts through the density of the legumes. Then, chop about 2 tablespoons of cucumber into fine dice, just enough to introduce a watery, cool crunch that contrasts the softness of the beans. Stream in 1 teaspoon of olive oil. That thin coat of healthy fat stretches the feeling of fullness and carries the flavor of the veggies across your tongue. Add a splash of vinegar or lemon juice to wake the whole bowl up. A quick toss unifies the elements. If you want to get slightly elaborate, a turn of the pepper mill and a tiny punch of salt will make the bowl sing. The beans are the undeniable heavy lifters, carrying you close to 8 grams of fiber in this snack alone. A clever trick surfaces the second time you make this. Let the mixture lounge on the counter for 3 to 5 minutes before eating. The tomato juices seep out and mingle with the oil, creating a raw dressing that coats the beans naturally. It tastes dramatically better than eating it instantly. This template is also incredibly forgiving. If you spot a wilting handful of spinach in the drawer, toss it in. If a stray avocado half needs a home, chop it and fold it through. Even at its most basic, this 2-minute miracle pushes your digestive health forward. 5. Almondberry cream parfait. This feels deceptively luxurious. It presents like a dessert you would order at a linen tablecloth restaurant, but the actual workload mirrors pouring cereal. Start with a clear glass or a small bowl and spoon in 3/4 of a cup of plain yogurt. The thicker Greek style is ideal, but standard works just fine in a pinch. Scatter a half cup of fresh berries across the surface. Raspberries are the crown jewel here because their edible seeds pack an extraordinary fiber punch. Just half a cup of those red gems delivers around 4 grams on its own, an impressive feat for such a delicate little fruit. Layer them so each spoonful captures a sweet pop of color. Next, add a liberal sprinkle of high-fiber granola, about 2 tablespoons. This layer adds a toasted, earthy crunch and introduces another 2 to 3 grams, depending on the blend you keep in your pantry. Then, scatter 1 tablespoon of sliced almonds. These little nutritional slivers pump in roughly 1 gram of fiber, while supplying the essential fats that ground the dish and slow down digestion. The cumulative count lands somewhere between 7 and 9 grams. But the true victory here is the sensory experience. You navigate through thick yogurt, bursting berries, shattering granola, and firm nuts, all clinging to the same spoon. It feels like you are cheating on a healthy eating plan. Once the granola and almonds land, wait just 2 minutes before digging in. The granola absorbs a tiny bit of moisture, softening from dry hay into something that melds with the cream. If your berries carry a tart sharpness, run a thin thread of honey over the top. That single step tricks your mind into thinking you spent $15 at a neighborhood coffee house, yet you assembled it faster than you could find your car keys. Some evenings, a sit-down meal feels unnecessarily formal. What your body truly desires is a scattered collection of small, savory bites that you eat slowly while unwinding. Scoop 3 tablespoons of plain hummus onto a flat plate and sweep it into a gentle dip well. Since chickpeas are the engine of hummus, that portion pushes about 2 to 3 grams of fiber onto the board instantly. Arrange a half cup of baby carrots next to the spread. On the opposite side, spread a half cup of sliced cucumber rounds. Finish the layout with 1 small whole-grain pizza pocket torn into triangles or a couple of dense whole-grain crackers. The grains stitch in another 2 to 3 grams. You have just constructed a small Mediterranean feast hovering close to 8 grams of fiber. The proper way to eat this is to tear a shard of bread, drag it through the hummus layer, and chase it with a cold vegetable piece. To enhance the store-bought hummus, make a tiny well with the back of a spoon and pour a trickle of olive oil right into the center, finishing with a dusting of smoked paprika. For an invisible fiber injection, bury a teaspoon of chia seeds under the oil drizzle. They vanish into the paste, but silently add 2 extra grams of fiber. The plate ends up colorful, texturally diverse, and remarkably heavy on satiety. This bowl is my go-to when I'm craving the ghost of a baked dessert, but refuse to stand near an oven. I have joked before that it resembles the filling of a warm apple pastry, only this version actively contributes to your longevity. Take a single medium apple, keep the colorful wrapper on tight, and dice it into small, manageable cubes. Pile them into your bowl. That one fruit provides about 4 grams of slow-burning fiber right from the start. Next, toss in 2 tablespoons of roughly chopped walnuts. They bring a bitter, earthy snap and about 1.5 grams of fiber, alongside rich polyunsaturated fats that anchor your hunger. Add a tablespoon of raisins for a chewy burst of condensed fruit sugar and about 1 gram of fiber. Now, unleash the powerful thickener. Stir a tablespoon of chia seeds through the mix. That dusting of tiny seeds donates a massive 5 grams of fiber to the bowl. Dust the entire mountain with a pinch of ground cinnamon. You want just enough spice to cling to the moisture of the apple without forming dry pockets. Fold everything together with a spoon so the seeds and walnuts cling to the sticky raisin and apple surfaces. The final count grabs roughly 10 to 11 grams, a stellar output for a 2-minute prep. After combining, enforce a short 3-minute rest period. The apple pieces leach out a small amount of natural juice, which the chia seeds greedily soak up, thickening the bottom of the bowl into a syrup-like consistency. If the apples are mouth-puckeringly tart, a short drizzle of honey smooths out the edges. You have just created a clean version of a fruit crumble filling. 8. 5-minute power wrap. This is a lunch that feels like you executed a real recipe, even though you barely dirtied a surface. It is balanced, portable, and dense with texture. Lay a large whole-grain tortilla, roughly 8 inches wide, flat on the counter. These wraps usually carry 3 to 4 grams of fiber within their stretchy walls, a far better foundation than simple white flour. Spoon 3 heaping tablespoons of hummus down the center line. Leave a clear margin at the edges to prevent the contents from squirting out when you fold it. The hummus, born from chickpeas, immediately contributes about 2 grams of fiber to the tally. Open a can of lentils, rinse them thoroughly, and measure a 1/4 cup. Lentils are absolute royalty in terms of fiber density, with that small scoop contributing about 3 to 4 grams. Spread them right on top of the hummus bed. Now, grab a tight handful of raw baby spinach, roughly half a cup packed loosely. The fresh greens cut the richness and add a crisp botanical note. By now, the filling alone is carrying nearly 10 grams of fiber. To close, fold the bottom flap over the mound, tuck the sides tightly toward the center, and roll the cylinder forward until the seam rests on the bottom. Let the finished wrap sit untouched for a single minute before you slice it. That brief pause lets the hummus humidity soften the grain wrap, gluing the entire structure shut so it does not unravel in your hand. For a finishing spark, crack some black pepper or shake a small amount of smoked paprika directly onto the lentil layer before rolling. Biting through the soft bread into the rich pulse spread and crisp greens feels substantial without weighing you down. No stove, no hot pan, no oily cleanup. 9. Creamy cottage harvest bowl. If your palate is screaming for something savory but cooling, this dish fills the void. Cottage cheese acts as a protein-dense, creamy canvas that plays well with crisp, hydrating toppings. Scoop 3/4 of a cup of cottage cheese into a bowl, spreading it flat to receive the toppings. Slice a half cup of ripe grape tomatoes and toss them on. They bleed a little sweetness and acidity into the curds, keeping things lively. Dice roughly 1/4 of a buttery avocado into small chunks and lay them on the side. That portion slides about 2 to 3 grams of fiber onto the scale and makes the overall dish much more luxurious. Sprinkle 1 teaspoon of sunflower seeds over the top. These little gray kernels donate 1 gram of fiber and crackle beautifully between your teeth. The bowl is currently hovering around 5 to 6 grams of fiber. Season it with a small pinch of salt and a generous twist of black pepper. Give the bowl a gentle stir so the fruit and seeds disperse through the creamy curds. For a final layer of brightness, squeeze a small wedge of lemon across the mixture. The citrus prevents the avocado from oxidizing into an ugly brown and brings the disparate elements into a unified, tangy sharpness. If you require a bigger push to hit your daily fiber marks, a spoonful of chia seeds folded in at the end boosts the fiber count by 2 grams without altering the flavor profile significantly. The result sits creamy, chunky, and cool on the spoon. It fills the stomach but leaves you feeling light and mobile, exactly what you want before settling into a relaxing evening. 10. The Energy Trail Bowl. This one is for the moments when you are feeling peckish, but categorically refuse to peel, chop, or arrange anything complex. It is a glorified, spoonable version of a hiking snack mix, designed to be eaten slowly while you watch the evening news. Place 2 tablespoons of raw almonds into a small bowl. They provide a valuable crunch and roughly 1.5 grams of fiber, bolstered by satisfying fats. Add 1 tablespoon of green pumpkin seeds. These add another gram of fiber and a distinct nutty flavor that rises above the almonds. Throw in 1 tablespoon of dried cranberries. Their chewy, tart sweetness cuts through the dry nuts and keeps the bites interesting. Then, drop in 1 tablespoon of unsweetened dark chocolate chips. This touch is optional, but recommended because it steers the brain into treat territory, making you feel rewarded rather than restricted. Slice half a banana into the bowl for a creamy, natural binder that adds about 1.5 grams of fiber. Stir everything briefly so the chocolate and fruit are not isolated in pockets. The sum is roughly 5 to 6 grams of fiber, assembled in under 60 seconds. If the dry nuts feel too hard against your teeth, a splash of cold milk over the mixture softens the edges and turns it into a lazy cereal. For a silent fiber upgrade, bury a spoonful of chia seeds under the ingredients so they stick to the banana moisture. It bulks the fiber by 2 extra grams without any added effort. You end up with something crunchy, just sweet enough, and oddly capable of erasing hunger pangs within a few short minutes. 11. The fast fiber green smoothie. Sometimes you simply do not feel like moving your jaw. Maybe your energy is completely spent, or the idea of solid food seems exhausting. This liquid solution slides down easily while still hitting your nutritional marks. Get your blender and pour in 1 cup of your chosen liquid, whether that is cold cow's milk, almond milk, or oat milk. The fluid creates the river that moves everything else. Add half of a ripe banana to introduce natural sweetness and roughly 1.5 grams of fiber. The banana also gives the drink a frothy, milkshake-like body. Toss in a half cup of frozen berries. Frozen mixed bags work beautifully, but if you have frozen raspberries specifically, the fiber content increases nicely due to their dense seed structure. Add 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed meal. That powder spins into the liquid easily, donating roughly 2 grams of invisible fiber. Finally, push a half cup of fresh baby spinach into the carafe. You will not detect the flavor once it purees with the fruit, but the leaf adds bulk and nutrient density. Blend on high for about 30 seconds until the mixture moves like a vortex. You are looking at roughly 5 to 7 grams of fiber in a vibrant, drinkable format. If the resulting smoothie feels like sludge rather than a drink, thin it out with 2 or 3 extra tablespoons of milk and pulse again. Frozen fruit thickens heavily. To push the fiber ceiling even higher, stir a teaspoon of whole chia seeds directly into the finished glass and let it sit for a moment. The result is a refreshing, chilly drink that requires no utensils and satisfies deeply. 12. The Pantry Emergency Bowl. This is your absolute backup plan, the thing you assemble when the vegetable drawer is bare and the fridge looks desolate. Hidden among your dry goods are the components for a genuinely creamy, savory bean mash. Open a can of white beans, cannellini, or Great Northern, and drain half a cup into a strainer. A quick rinse strips the thick liquid and brightens the flavor profile. These beans already contribute roughly 6 grams of fiber on their own. Cube half of a creamy avocado and drop it into the bowl with the beans. The healthy fats and creamy texture from the avocado contribute about 5 grams of fiber, turning the dry legumes into a spreadable paste. Pour 1 teaspoon of olive oil over the mound for richness, followed by a squeeze of lemon juice to sharpen the edges. Take your fork and press down, mashing the beans and fruit into a chunky, rustic blend. You are not aiming for a smooth puree. Rugged peaks and valleys are perfectly acceptable. With minimal effort, you are staring at 10 to 11 grams of fiber. A pinch of garlic powder or a crack of black pepper folded through the mash changes it from boring pantry food into a vibrant, savory pâté. If you happen to have a few sturdy whole-grain crackers tucked away, scooping the mixture onto them adds another 1 to 2 grams of fiber. The final plate is tangy, creamy, and impossibly filling. It is a quiet reminder that health can be built from the most unassuming cans and a single ripe fruit. There, you have a full rotation of no-cook, fiber-rich plates that come together in the time it takes to find a lost remote. The ultimate secret to eating well as the years roll by is not buried in a complex cookbook. It sits in the simple, repeatable rituals you can execute even on your most drained evenings. When nutritious food becomes utterly frictionless, it finally becomes a permanent habit. If you picked up even one idea here that might save your dinner routine, drop a comment below and let me know which one it was. I truly enjoy scanning your feedback and spotting the community favorites. And before you click away, please remember to like this video and share it with a friend who might be tired of cooking tonight. Take gentle care of yourself, and I will see you very soon on my channel.